So, hello everyone. Welcome to INOCON2020, and thank you for joining us today on our exclusive interview with Sienna Jackson. We will explore the music supervision world with a focus on films and television. I'll be your host. My name is Antoine Rousseau. I'm a graduate student in Music Business Master Program of Berklee College of Music in Valencia, and I'm the manager of Description Records Sync departments. So, today's conversation will feature an amazing speaker, a great professional of the industry that I'm delighted to receive, Sienna Jackson. If you don't mind, would you accept to give a quick introduction of yourself to the people listening to us?
Sure. So my name is Sienna Jackson. I've been a music and entertainment executive for the past 10 years. I got my start working in the studio world, so working on a lot of music soundtracks for film and television. I initially got my start at the Weinstein Company. Then I moved on to become the head of film, television, music at Spyglass Media Group. Most recently, I am, the CEO and founder of Zoran Creative Strategy, which is a social impact firm that focuses on entertainment partnerships. So marrying content and creators with causes. And that's the work that I do now, but still very much in the music space.
That is very interesting. I could not help but see that you have had a very early start in the music world. That's the least I can say. From what I remember, graduated at 14 and started at 17 in the music industry. Can we address this?
I mean, I was always just very much a hurry up sort of person. So I started college at 14, and okay. I live in California and Los Angeles, and you can do that if you test well enough. So I started college at 14. I was originally studying journalism and political science. When I was 17, I got my first internship while I was wrapping up my first college degree. And that was what kind of started my whole career. If I hadn't gotten that internship in the music department at the Weinstein Company, I would not have the career that I have. So I kind of got started on this path. I wasn't expecting entertainment at all. It was not my plan. I think I originally wanted to go into more political or, government work, especially when it comes to international relations. So international relations was always an interest of mine. But then I got this internship and I ended up working all through school, got my master's. I was working full time. So it kind of goes to show you don't know what opportunity will open up for you and where it'll take you in the full span of your career. So if there's a takeaway, never say no to an open door. If something opens up and it's not like, oh, this wasn't my plan, this isn't what I, went to school for, oh, this is not what I want to do, take the opportunity. You're still going to learn valuable skills that you could take into a career. But for me, what it led to is an entertainment career. And in the course of that, I was still able to do government affairs work. I still have lobbying experience from doing entertainment. And now I find myself in a place where I'm, working on policy, I'm working on causes, I'm working in philanthropy, but through the lens of my experiences in entertainment. So, that's just taking an opportunity, right?
I just wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's amazing and it's a very singular way into this industry, and I feel like it showcases also a part of your personality, which is you've done some amazing work with your company with a lot of philanthropy, and having this background in this I would say political, but I would say more journalism background, political side. Explain kind of where you ended with this company of yours, and I feel like you never know how life will bring you to where you should be. So thank you for this introduction. And I would just explain to our audience the themes that we're going to cover. First, we'll see some main trends for the music supervision, best practices that you got with your personal experiences, and some advices for the class of 2020. So I want to start with today's trend, not taking too much time on the COVID-19 thing, but what do you foresee as trends coming along in the music supervision world in this post-pandemic situation? Are there?
Well, I'll kind of preface this by saying I'm definitely speaking from an American lens. As I work in the United States, I work in Los Angeles. The student community is very large here. I think, especially, considering the way that the United States has mishandled the pandemic, we're going to be dealing with the ramifications in terms of production, pipeline, all of that for a very long time. I foresee at least another year to 18 months of immediate impact. But then in the long term, it's going to permanently change the way that content is created in this country. And, the United States generates, our media and entertainment sector is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is a huge part of our gross domestic product. It's a huge part of our economy. Things are permanently going to be altered by COVID. The way that we do productions now, even now where we have folks coming in to sets, limited number of people on set at any time. You've got a full-time safety compliance officer on set. You're not going to do the traditional craft services. For music supervision, in my experience, working remotely on productions, like in the post-production process or even in early development, hasn't been impossible to work remotely. It just means that there's just extra steps, right? So instead of doing the typical sitting with an editor in the Avid Bay and you're spotting a film, you're doing it over Zoom, where you'll have the editor throw up the film on their screen, and you're just like watching and hoping that your internet doesn't cut out. So, there are these little inconveniences that we just need to kind of get over. But, the great thing about being a music supervisor is you don't really need to leave your work environment. If you're already used to working from home, a lot of music supervisors are freelance, so they're working from home anyway. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can get the job done, because I think the only thing that I really miss is going to live shows. That was like the best part, I think, of working in music, is getting to, oh man. So, when I first started, I was going out 3 or 4 nights a week, 2 to 3 shows a night, get home 3 a.m. So that was like normal for me when I was starting, but that's how you meet people. Like that is the thing I think is going to be the most difficult, especially, for class of 2020 folks that are just starting out. Networking opportunities, I think, is going to be the biggest concern. Back in the day, before the plague, you could just go out and you would meet agents, you would meet managers, you would meet folks at the record labels, you would start building up your network, building up your Rolodex of connections. And I think that is the one area where it's going to be really difficult. I've seen great stuff from the labels doing like virtual hangs, virtual listening sessions, virtual album release. I was doing a thing for Interscope Records. They do a virtual hang, and it was Ellie Goulding, and we were all in this Zoom conference, and Ellie's just like playing her new album, and we're like, yes. So that's you can cool. Still do it.
Yeah.
But there are extra steps to take into consideration. Once this is all said and done, if it's safe enough for large gatherings, for concerts and events, even music festivals and touring is going to be permanently altered. People are going to be much more cautious. You're going to see a lot of crew size reductions in touring. So the long term, I can't even tell you definitively what's going to change, except for things are going to be permanently altered. And I think the best piece of advice I could give to folks is to be as flexible and as dynamic as you can be. Music is still out there. Music is still discoverable. I think for young people, especially like young millennial. I'm a millennial. I'm 27, so I'm still a millennial. Gen Zers, they know how to discover music online. They know how to build community online. They know how to network online. It'll just be focusing more on digital branding for yourself as a professional. It's going to be key. And then once it's safe to go out and like pump elbows, doing that aggressively.
Makes total sense. But yeah, I definitely can relate to this. Like, I think the pandemic offered the students a great time to reflect on themselves and also work on their personal branding, which I think is valuable, especially when the whole world stops and you get the opportunity of doing this. Like it's a positive aspect. Definitely the life part of not being able to network directly sucks, but like
it's the worst part.
You got to keep going. But yeah, I totally get that. regarding, I wanted to talk about your personal experiences, like in and get some of your best practices in the supervision world. One question that I have is like, what have you learned from the job of like searching for the right song? What are like, is there something that you could tell us about this?
Well, I'm coming at it from, because when I was in-house at a studio, I was more from the music executive side, where you would hire a music supervisor and you'd work with them on deals. So when I was doing that, it was less, I mean, I did do music searches and I did pull music, but I was more interested in working with the composer or working with the artist to create an original song. So like when I was at Weinstein, for instance, I worked with, Gwen Stefani, Pharrell Williams, U2, Taylor Swift, Iggy Pop, Eminem, like all these folks. Cool. And it was more of that. Exactly. It was about collaboration. It was about bringing in an artist in that you thought was a good fit for the film, showing them a cut of the film. Okay, what do you think? So like a good story is, we had Sia do an original song for the movie Lion, which was about that little boy who was adopted, Indian boy who got lost from his family, adopted by an Australian family, and then rediscovered his village in India using Google Maps. It's like a true story. We had Sia come in, screen the film. By the time she walked out of our screening room, she had already written the song, right? So that is kind of the thing I relish most from the music supervision standpoint, is going to an artist, going to a manager, going to a label, going to folks that I knew in the business and being like, what are you really excited by? Like what artist is really exciting you right now? And not just, working with big artists. Like we had Disaster Piece do the soundtrack for It Follows, like wall to wall. We had Sunlux do the soundtrack wall to wall for Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, which was a Jessica Chastain film. We had Grizzly Bear do the soundtrack wall to wall for Blue Valentine. So even working with indie artists and being like, okay, do what you want to do. Here's this film.
That's really cool, because it's very much about like the direct relationship with the artist and the labels to actually create a piece of music for the movie. And I feel like this is amazing. Like how in that setting, like how is it when they like come up with the song, and if it doesn't align with like the vision of the directors?
I have it. Okay, so for a Tim Burton film, Big Eyes, we had Lana Del Rey come in and do a song. Okay. It was for the end title, and the filmmakers were like, "This is not quite hitting it." So she ended up doing 2 songs, and we had like one Lana Del Rey song, one part of the film, one for the end title, and that was the one we pushed for Oscars. So the reason why you do original songs is so that they can qualify for a Best Original Song at the Oscars or Golden Globes. So courting that awards recognition, which can be really big for the marketing and promotion of a film. So that is the way I looked at music. Music is a promo tie-in for the release of a picture. You get an original song, which means you can build a soundtrack around it. You can put that in your trailers, put that in advertising. And when that film inevitably gets the nomination, and I think about like lots of Golden Globe and Academy Award nominations for Best Original Song, Best Original Score, that just helps push and elevate the film. And that was kind of the attitude that I was taking to music in the context of film and TV.
Going on with what you just said, would you say on a very like recent work, Shallow from Lady Gaga, that was released with A Star Is Born, would you say that like the song had a major impact on the movie?
Yes. Yeah. Music makes movies. Music makes movies. Like if you have a great song, that is going to have so much influence on audiences. It's going to have so much influence on, potential audiences. People who haven't seen the film still know the song, and that elevates the brand recognition, right? So I'll go back to an old example. When I first started working, I was 17 years old. This is like 2010. I go into my first job. It's like my first week. And my supervisor was like, okay, check out this film. And I watched this film. ADR hasn't been recorded. no temp music, no score. It's just the actors raw. And I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this movie sucks. It's so boring. I hate this movie. What's this movie going to be good? And so I'm watching this being like, this is not a good movie. And then a couple weeks later, Alexander Desplat lays a score, ADR's recorded, mixed and mastered. It was The King's Speech, and it won Best Picture at the Oscars. Okay. Music makes a film. It can, it cues you as the audience where you are emotionally. It elevates and complements an actor's performance. It gives you the sort of emotional sensory palette for how you experience a film. And the music that you put in a film can change how you perceive what you're seeing on screen. Subconsciously, that's just how human psychology works. What we hear influences what we see and how we interpret the story.
So regarding this, like this perfect match and that creates this emotion, what would be the achievement, the project that you're the proudest of because of this, because of the emotional like aspect that it created?
I'm proud of basically every film I've ever worked on. Worked on a lot. Like The Artist was really great. Silent film, also Best Picture winner. Silver Linings Playbook was great. We had Jessie J do that, a single, Crazy About You, which, you know, a lot of awareness for mental health. I think that was important. U2 did a song called Ordinary Love for the Mandela film, which I also worked on. That was beautiful. Worked with Ennio Morricone on Hateful Eight, and that got him his one and only Academy Award. And he, you know, rest in peace, he recently passed away. But that was amazing, and it was amazing to meet him. So he didn't speak any English, but his son was there to translate. He was just a lovely, lovely man. So I think I'm really proud of the people I've gotten to collaborate with. It was cool working with Quentin Tarantino. It was cool working with Ennio Morricone. It was cool working with Antoine Fuqua. It was cool working with Tim Burton. It was cool working with all these folks. They're just like real artists who value their craft. And I think that's the most rewarding part of creative work in general, is just working with artists. Like I'm a creative person in the sense that I like to figure out creative solutions to problems. That's what a music supervisor does. Creative solutions to problems. I'm not a creator in the sense that I'm not a musician. My father's a musician, by the way. So like, he's a great musician. So I come from a musical family, but it's great to work with artists and to collaborate with artists and to, you know, kind of just let them do what they do best and trust in their creative ability. And then you just facilitate. Like that's a good music supervisor is just a facilitator. It's just something cool. And then you're just sitting back and you're like, okay, this is great. You're not going to go in and be like, oh, can you change the bridge? Can you like chorus is not like
exactly. No, it's about like trust and let them create
trust. Yeah,
but that's
trust
beautiful.
In art, trust in the creative process.
I heard a lot of like amazing projects, like in the few sentences. I'm still in shock, but
I have to update my IMDb. It's like on my IMDb, but I haven't updated all of it. So it's like this long column of projects, and it's not fully up to date.
Well, I'm telling you, this is impressive, and I'm very like grateful that like we're having this discussion, because I really feel like our students I am learning a lot right now, so I'm pretty sure they will. Regarding music supervision, I had like I was curious about the specificity of supervision for film and supervision for television. What is the differences between both?
I think there's no difference except for budget and timeline, right?
Okay.
TV moves faster. With film, you've got, you know, more leeway. There's, you know, you've got months instead of weeks, right, to figure out your soundtrack. With television, it's a faster pace. But in terms of level of creative excellence and freedom and blah, 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 same. It's the same creatively. It's just the constraints of time and budget, perhaps. If you're working on, you know, say network, or if it's prestige, then you have a lot of budget. That is like the only thing I would say is just how fast you need to be with your pulling and your selections.
I totally makes sense. That like it's quite the same in the process of finding the song, but that in the specifics there's some change. I was curious for the students, like transitioning to your experiences and what you can recommend for our class of 2020. what do you think will be the best outcome for the class of 2020 following the pandemic?
I guess specific to the circumstances that we're all in, right? 2020 is kind of the worst year of all of our lives collectively. It's an unfair situation to be graduating into. But however, I think there's something so resilient and impressive about this generation of new professionals. Very resilient, very creative. I think being open to change, being open to being dynamic, taking whatever opportunities you can where you can. And if the opportunities aren't there, figuring out how to generate them for yourself. Do not be afraid to cold call. For the folks watching, Antoine just reached out to me cold on LinkedIn and friended me on LinkedIn. And I was like, he sent this nice little note and I friended him back. I'm like, sure. And then we started talking. And that's why I'm here, because he made an outreach. And most of the time when you reach out to folks, they're going to be chill. Especially in music, I think there's not a lot of room for crazy. There are horrible egos, but by and large, people are decent and they want to be helpful. And if you kind of come to them from a place of, hey, I'm just getting started, can I please ask for some advice, or can I hop on the phone with you? Can we schedule a Zoom? I would love to ask you some questions. In terms of internship opportunities and things like that, right now, the market has shrunk. However, it's going to open back up very aggressively as soon as folks feel like they can. I know in the agency world, there's been a lot of, letting go and all of that, but, they're going to aggressively rehire as soon as they feel like they can. So job opportunities will open up, at least, I'm coming again from the perspective of the United States and the US market, which is the largest market for sync and for music and for entertainment. It will open back up aggressively as soon as folks feel like they are able to. In the interim, building your brand, making connections on LinkedIn, that's a great way to start building your relationships. Look at the people who are doing the work you want to do. Reach out to those people, ask for an informational. So look at the people who are doing what you want to do. Reach out to them, learn from them. Start to establish that sort of mentorship and rapport. So that's the first thing I'd say in terms of practical. If I were in your position, here's what I would be doing right now to kind of generate opportunities for myself. That's what I would start with, right? Looking at your digital brand, making outreach. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. The worst anyone can never say is no, right? So don't be afraid to reach out.
Yes.
The worst anyone can say to you is no. And that's not going to kill you. Another thing I would say, just in terms of general life advice, general professional advice, it's totally fine to make mistakes. You make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Ask yourself, is this going to matter in 5 days? Will this matter in 5 months, 5 years, 5 hours even? Probably not. So you make a mistake, own it, admit that you made a mistake, move on, learn from it. Another thing is just treat people like human beings. Be kind. There's no reason to not treat people the way you would want to be treated. There's no reason not to be kind to people and considerate and respectful, and to kind of approach your relationships in the entertainment industry as you would your friendships. My first boss, Richard Glasser, said, I treat my relationships as friendships. And I think that's a really wise, approach is to really enjoy connecting with people, really enjoy reaching out to people, really enjoy working with people, really enjoy the art of collaboration. That is going to be the basis for your professional network. That'll be the basis of your career. As a point of comparison, I never did social media. I was very bad with digital branding for myself. I don't do it. I recently created an Instagram just for my business. So I was never doing that. I was doing personal outreach to folks, calling them, hanging out with them, face-to-face, meetings. That's what I did to build my relationships. And that's what I've been that has been sustaining my career through all of the ups and downs that I've experienced.
Because it's also very much valuable. It's way more interesting to have a personal interaction with someone than a digital one, but I still feel like for our class of 2020, it's a great opportunity to, people are more than ever connected, and it's more easy to reach out to them like the way we did, and to start a conversation for that. And you also mentioned like being resilient. I want to give a shout out to the team of INOCON, who made an amazing work making this event happen. This is the fruit of several events that were supposed to happen, organized by Berkeley, that because of the situation, the in-person interaction could not happen. So they came up with this amazing project. And this is a shout out to you guys. And I definitely relate to all of you just said. I think our like doing the outreach at that time is really what we should be doing.
And just value building bridges, value building relationships, value building connections. And remember, Berkeley's a great school. I have a lot of people in my network who are Berkeley alums, right? And so tap into the alumni network. You know, go like look at your school and be like, okay, so, you know, I've spent all this time here in tuition. What are the resources you have for me?
Like, I mean, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, tap into your alumni. Look at the alumni options. There's a lot of great alumni in the industry who went to Berkeley. So hit them all up. Hit everyone up. The worst you can get is a no, or they'll just like, you never hear back. But that's if you make 10 outreaches and at least one gets back, that's one great connection, right?
That is exactly. That's very true. I wanted to ask a question regarding a more recent topic, kind of a heavy one, but let's see how it goes. Regarding society changes, how do you think music supervision can make a difference, and how can it do it?
I think, and I've had this conversation, this is the thing about being like the social impact, social justice person in my professional network. People always hit me up asking about the present moment and how do we address, again, it goes back to relationships. If you are only giving opportunities to people who are in your immediate circle, you're never going to diversify your work environment. If you're only reaching out to people who look like you, come from your school, blah, 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 then it's always going to be segregated by default, right? That's sort of the de facto segregation that happens when people stay within their own circle and they don't broaden their horizons. So if you're, say, an A&R, look at artists that are outside of your roster that were recommended by a friend. You know, you've got the internet. There is no way you can't discover great talent that maybe is not getting the opportunity to flourish. If you're a music supervisor, you know, develop relationships with indie labels, develop relationships with managers that have like small rosters. You know, don't ever be afraid to work with folks that are, you know, not big, because if you're doing great creative work together, and the output's going to elevate the profile of the whole project regardless, just on the merits of how great it is. You know, so embracing change means just, again, building bridges, but this time just building bridges outside of your immediate, the no-brainer immediate social network. That's how you kind of diversify things, if that's the question. If it's about, you know, the kind of the present difficult political moment we're living in, just changing the practice of how we do business is going to make so much difference. When you elevate voices that have not been elevated and you elevate them into decision-making roles, you make a big difference. That's how you make change. It's again, broadening that circle of collaboration. And, you know, from your perspective, if you're a freelance music supervisor, just elevating voices that you think are interesting, going beyond your immediate social circle. That's how you do it. That's how you break kind of the stagnation and the bubble that we all inevitably find ourselves kind of in. That's how I would just, from a practical standpoint, approach that.
Well, thank you so much, Sienna, for this, because it actually resonated a lot, and I definitely feel like I'll make a mission for myself to be much more conscious about it and proactively work towards this. Just doing the work of not regarding only of what is surrounding me, but trying to reach out to circles that I wouldn't at first hand, because ultimately I will grow from this. So thank you for that insight. This is the end of our panel. I want to take the time to thank you very much, Sienna, for this discussion full of insights. And on behalf of Berkeley and the whole team of INOCON and Disruption Records, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to wish you a great rest of the day to you and all of our attendees. Thank you so much.
Thank you.